Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever felt like the wealthy are playing a completely different game? Well, today we're diving into a fascinating argument that their biggest secret weapon isn't what's in their wallet, but what's going on in their head. It's a question we've all probably asked ourselves. Is getting rich all about luck or being born into the right family? The source material we're looking at today makes a really bold claim. It says it's not about where you start, it's all about how you think. And that thinking kicks off with one central idea. So, first up, mindset. According to this source, the real gap between the rich and everyone else isn't even financial. It's perceptual. It's all about how you see the world, not as a collection of problems, but as a field of potential. And to really bring this to life, the source uses this classic little story. Just imagine this. A shoe salesman lands in a new town ready to make some sales, and he immediately realizes, nobody here wears shoes, not a single person. What he does next, well, that reveals everything. And there it is, the great divide. Same exact situation, but two totally different conclusions. One person sees a dead end, a total waste of time. The other, they see an absolute gold mine, a completely untapped market. That little mental switch from it's impossible to, how could this be possible? That's the core of this opportunity mindset. This way of thinking doesn't just stop there either. It trickles down into how you make choices every single day. The source calls this either or versus both thinking. See, most people think, okay, I've got $5, I can buy the soda or the snack. But the wealthy mindset asks a totally different question. How can I get both? And here's a simple example of how that both method actually works. That $5 isn't just for spending. Nope, it's seed money. You use it to buy a case of water, you sell the bottles for a profit, and then you go buy the soda and the snack. See what just happened? You just turned a simple spending choice into a tiny business venture. But look, a mindset is great, but it's pretty useless if you don't do anything with it, right? So how does this way of thinking actually show up in daily life? Well, that brings us to our second big idea, the habits of growth, the things that build up over time. The first habit is a huge one, reading. A lot. This quote attributed to Warren Buffett in our source just nails it. Knowledge isn't a one-and-done thing. It's something you build day by day, and it literally compounds, making you smarter and more valuable over time. 500. Let's just sit with that number for a second. 500 pages every day. This isn't about scrolling through a few articles. The source is highlighting a level of dedication that treats learning like a full-time job, a non-negotiable part of the day dedicated to building your own brain power. And Buffett is not some weird outlier here. The source points to this as a clear pattern. You've got Bill Gates reading 50 books a year, Mark Cuban reading for 3 hours a day. Elon Musk literally taught himself how to build rockets by reading books. But here's the kicker. The source claims that only 1 in 50 poor people read every day for self-improvement. That is a massive difference. All right, the next major habit is all about who you surround yourself with. You've probably heard this saying before, right? It perfectly captures this idea that your circle, the people you talk to, learn from, and hang out with, shapes everything about you. And the data cited in the source really puts this into perspective. For the wealthy, look at that. Nearly 3/4 of them actively spend 5 or more hours a month building their networks. For the poor, that number just drops off a cliff, down to only 1 in 10. So the argument here is your network isn't just something that happens, it's a critical asset you have to go out and intentionally build. So you've got the mindset down, you're building the habits, but there's one final piece of the puzzle, and that's your actual framework for money itself. It's about getting way beyond just thinking about your paycheck. This right here is a really fundamental split. The source argues that many people trade their time for money. They think in hours, right? I work an hour, I get paid X. But in contrast, the rich believe their income should be tied directly to the results and the value they create. It's a total shift from focusing on your input, the hours you work, to focusing on your output, the problems you solve. And when you start thinking that way, your main financial goal completely changes. The focus moves away from the immediate paycheck, your working income, and onto the long-term scoreboard, your total net worth. Because let's be honest, you can earn a giant salary and still end up with nothing if you don't know how to grow your assets. This brings us to a really sharp little phrase from the source, penny smart, dollar stupid. You know what this is? It's that person who agonizes over using a coupon to save $2 on coffee, but then has absolutely no plan for their $1,000 bonus. It's all about misplacing your financial attention. So what does being dollar smart actually look like? Well, the source claims it's about taking those bigger sums of money and investing them right back into yourself. Things like education, conferences, even paying for a mentor, they aren't seen as expenses. They're investments that are expected to generate a way higher return down the road. So, we've walked through mindset, habits, and these frameworks for money. The big question now is, okay, what do you do with this? So, if we boil it all down, the core argument from our source is this: financial success is not an accident. It's the end product of a mindset that sees opportunity everywhere, combined with habits that force you to grow, all built on a financial framework that values net worth over your net pay. And that leaves us with one final personal question. Forget about trying to master all of this overnight. Just think about this. Of everything we've gone over today, what is the one small habit, the one little change you could actually start tomorrow morning that might begin to compound for you?